it's a privilege for me to be able to spend some time talking about topics like this that we all share an interest in. And as we look at slide number 8, I'm just wondering this morning, how many of you agree that project management, especially in this changing world of economics and challenges of growth and complexity, that project management is really challenging work? I'm sure there are a lot of you that agree with that statement. And just when you feel most pressured and vulnerable, perhaps, that's exactly the time you need to be the strongest and most generous in mind and spirit. I'm also wondering how many of you would agree with leadership guru John Kotter when he noted, more change always requires more leadership. And so as we find ourselves in a changing world and changing demands, leadership is really a focus, and it continues to grow in importance in the success of organizations. My thought is that effective project managers can't simply be reduced to just what you know. Just mere certification doesn't make for an effective project manager or leadership. And what you do, the processes of project management alone don't make for successful projects. So if we turn to slide 9, let's consider, think for a moment, what does make for an effective leader in a program management context or any other? And really what we're asking here is, what kind of leader do you want to be? And one way of thinking about that I found you to be useful is to think of someone whom you respect, who, you respect them probably because they consistently get things done on time. Often they're the go-to person that gets called on when things get tough, who has delivered a lasting legacy of successes. Now, if you think about that person from your personal experience, I'm sure you can name that person without really knowing how well they work within industry practices and whether they're certified or not certified and what processes they are. Why is that? I would suggest it's because what you notice in their leadership capability is they practice what we call the leadership code, or what might also be looked at as rules of personal proficiency. They're executors, they're strategists, they're talent managers, as well as developers of human capital. So if we look at slide number 10, what might we turn to as project managers in our pursuit of developing our leadership capability? What's a relevant and practical framework for us? Where can we turn to get clear, simple, useful answers that we need for our daily work lives in this changing world? Well, let me tell you, the challenge is that there are something like 500,000 books on leadership out there. I Google it, and last time I Googled it, it's got something like 89 million hits, The key here is we're not going to read 500,000 books. We may not read 500 books. We might only have time to read one book, not even 5. So where do we go for these answers? And where do we find the essentials, the kind of leadership things that we need to know, whether we're in private or public sector, whether we're working in a large or small company, whether we are in transition between companies, whether we find ourselves in high technology or low technology, global or domestic? Well, the way we went to find answers for that was we turned to a network of experts. Among them, they had alone written 50 books on leadership. They had done as many as about 2,360-degree reviews of leadership skills and what differentiated successful leaders from unsuccessful leaders. And what resulted was boiling all that down into what we believe some of the essentials are. So if we turn to slide number 12, those essentials, the things that we might turn to help us get to the next level of program management leadership, have been captured in a book called Leadership Code. I really commend this book to you. It's very useful, but the basic idea of this is, what 5 essential rules as a leader might I consider living by and leading by? Why rules? Well, rules enable disciplined action, and a disciplined action helps us accomplish the desired outcomes for the businesses within which we work. And what we're looking for is through that leadership action, we drive business results that continue to improve. We continue towards favorable business results. So if we turn to slide 13, what is this leadership code? There are three dimensions to it. In the vertical dimension, we're talking about time, either in the upper quadrants, the long term, or the bottom quadrants in the near term. We're also talking about focus. Is it individual focus in the left-hand side quadrants, or is it more the organization-wide focus? And then central to this, the piece that ties all four quadrants together is yourself, your personal proficiency. And so what we'll do in today's talk is we'll step through each of these, helping to explain what they mean and what specific takeaways and checklists and ideas. I'm hopeful by the end of the talk today, you'll feel that you have at least a good handful of things to get yourself started. So when we talk about strategist, what we're talking about is where are we going? Who's going to help us see where are we going? When we talk about executor, project managers know all about this, right? It's about how will we make sure we get to where we're going. When we talk about talent manager, it's about who's going to go with us on this business journey. And one of the least addressed pieces by most leadership is that upper left quadrant, human capital developer, answering kind of the question of who stays, who sustains the organization, who's going to be part of our next generation. So this leadership code and the 5 rules, it's not the whole game of being an effective leader, but it is the majority of it, and there are fundamental basics that we believe every leader at every level needs to be effective, based on the research that we've done in our practice in helping to develop, do professional development in leaders in all kinds of organizations. As we turn to slide 14, let's begin with that first upper right quadrant called strategist. And rule number 1 is shape the future. Be a strategist. Well, what we're trying to do there is people turn to us in that leadership position about where do we go. And any vision isn't really satisfactory. What we're trying to do is see that distinctive vision that helps us create a future that's much more attractive in a business sense than it was before, and helps us to occupy and, if not dominate, a strategic position that no one else can touch. That's what really leadership is about. That envisioning of a future that creates a situation where we're compelled and we're anxious, we're energized to respond to opportunities. Now, an effective strategist, a person that's really good at shaping the future, they distinguish themselves by helping their organization to harness their existing strengths. There are a lot of latent strengths in an organization. Where are these strengths? They're in people. And we do it in a way that perhaps no one else does. That's leadership. As we turn to slide 15, what are the critical elements of being a strategist? I think there are 4 characteristics, and we'll step through each of these 4. It's about curiosity. It's about bringing the outside in. It's about engaging the organization, because one person, of course, can't do it alone in any kind of non-trivial situation. And it's about not just talking about it, but getting traction, is that the vision is actually being transitioned into an execution. So let's examine each one of those in turn. On slide 16, curiosity. I wonder how many of you feel that you are a curious person. Have you allowed your curiosity become subdued and kind of crushed from the everyday kind of pressing demands on your time and details and logistics? The challenge here is to reach into yourself and find ways to broaden yourself and explore ideas and concepts, and ask yourself, what if? What can be?